Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
Unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
your mindset journey continues.
Welcome, Karin Velická, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm very good. Thank you for asking.
All right. Today, we're going to be talking about your work. You are a life coach and author. And I do want to let you know that I appreciate you because you are coming in from a different part of the world. So it's really late where you are. And it's just the afternoon for me. So to have this dedication and for you to come on, I truly appreciate you. As we begin this conversation, life coach, I know, is a very blanket term where people are like, oh, it's just another life coach. Oh, just someone else who can help me with certain parts of my life. I can ask ChatGPT these questions. And the reality is you can't. There's going to be people who are going to be able to see your blind spots better than any AI program out there, right? Books can change your life. When you open up that page, I'm telling you, a book can change your life. And we're going to be talking about all of the work that Karin is doing in just a minute. But before we do that, Karin, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help people?
Thank you very much. So I'm Karin. I come from Slovakia. And what I do is I just now shifted from being a finance girl, so really having a career in finance, which was high functioning, and then coming into the world of coaching and writing a book. So it is really a dramatic shift. And this is what actually I found out last year, which is that I really wish to live from an authentic place. And because I have managed to find that and find the purpose, I'm now guiding others to do this, to do the same, which means that to find out the core of who they are and to gently guide them to live from that place.
Very good. I think of just how similar sometimes coaches can have their background. I was a finance person before I was a teacher, before I was an educator. And then from education, I left to become a coach, where it's like a finance mindset. It's like those people are so good at helping people understand this, like the symmetrics of life or just the aspects of their life. It's just like, hey, like these numbers are your budget. This is your life. And it's hard for individuals to do it themselves because guess what? If I write it on a to-do list or if I put it in an Excel sheet or a doc, I don't necessarily have to force myself to do it. I don't have any skin in the game. And what happens for many people, especially at the inception of New Year's or the inception of something new, they start very strong, but then they taper off. And it's just like, yes, it was, like it was good to start, but then things are getting really challenging. But if you have someone in your corner or a trainer or a coach, whoever, mentor, they're going to be guiding you along the way and they're going to be pushing you. And it's so important. What or when was a part of your life where someone pushed you or really helped you elevate yourself or get to the next level or maybe even just realize your purpose?
There have been not just one person. I had many mentors and also I had a therapist, a coach, but sometimes it is just a friend telling you one sentence. So for example, when I was now going to a company where I worked before, it was just my friend casually mentioning that the company might have an opportunity because it was something where I really wanted to get. So it can just be a friend who just tells you something. But to really have somebody like a coach in your life, it really changes everything. Because the person is there to hold space for you. The person is there to, exactly like you mentioned, show you the journey that you have gone through. Because we are always searching for the next step, something that we can do more, that we don't really take the time to look back at where we are coming from and give ourselves the credit. So what you just asked me, where did I find that also the courage to basically change completely my life from finance to coaching? It's that I had people who helped me as well. I have an accountability group, which is very important because you need people who are having the same mindset so that you can discuss ideas with them. And when you actually propose these ideas, they help you either initiate them or they just support you along the way. So it's really that important to surround yourself with people who can be there for you. And I have created a community where we are several coaches together, and we're helping each other grow. And that's what I'm trying to do for the others as well, so they see how coaching can really transform your life for the better. Because when people come to coaching, it's either because they have a challenge that they need to solve, or because they really want to grow and grow into another level of yourself. And this is the beautiful part, because you get to see where they are, where they want to go, and then create concrete small steps so that we slowly and consistently get there. We don't want to overwhelm people by trying to have these big dreams, big visions, and then it's overwhelming that people can feel like they're drowning. It's much more about creating those small steps and then see how we can get there. And that's how I like to say, like, we are building the new pillar. But it doesn't mean that the past is not going to come and haunt you. But once it does, we are there in that safe space, so that when it comes, the old voice comes and tries to knock you down, we are there together to heal it and let it go, so that we can come to the new reality that we are building.
You talked about two aspects to why someone would reach out to a coach. One being challenges and the other one being growth, where sometimes when we have a challenge, individuals might say, I'll figure it out, I'll do it later, like they kind of trudge through it. And then we have the aspect of grow. Everyone wants a better life. They want a better tomorrow. They want a better future. And some might have some levels of growth, and it might be minuscule, but then there can be growth moments in your life where it just explodes. And I think of where I'm going to give an example of challenges and growing, and it's going to be the same analogy. Where when I first came to Texas, I started growing a garden. And I've never grown anything in Texas before. And it was a challenging the challenge was, all right, how can I figure out the soil composition, and how can I figure out how to keep all my crops or all my plants protected from the harsh sun, because the sun is just there. Boom, 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 boom. It's not much rain either. So the challenge was the sun. It was a new soil. It was all of these things that I didn't know that I had to learn. And as I progressed the first year, there was things that did really good, and there was things that didn't do very good. But I got better. I grew in my green thumb in Texas. So it wasn't the first day, everything was perfect. I had the challenges. I said, okay, let me figure out the solution. It took me time to learn to grow. And then for now, I can have crops that grow very quickly, or they grow really well. And there was times when I saw those growth, on some of the crops not really happening. I remember it was like my third year of growing cucumbers, and the growth was like not as good as I wanted it to be. And I'm thinking in my mind, what is different this year than the other years? And it wasn't. The main reason was because I wasn't paying attention to the soil. I wasn't paying attention to the foundation. So there was challenges, I overcame them. And then there was aspects to everything that I've overcome. Now the growth was halting. And if we just give that analogy or that metaphor to life, we have challenges. We have moments where our growth might not be where we want it to be. How do you help people, or how would you like to help people with their challenges and the aspects of their growth in their life?
Thank you for this analogy. I love it. And what you just mentioned, also the soil, the foundation, it's important to realize that that's us. And it really begins with us, because we very often live outside of ourselves. We live externally. And then we react instead of respond, because we are so used to a world which is overstimulating that we don't really stop to reflect on who I am, whether I like what I'm doing, because we are just reacting to all of these external stimulus. And another important thing I think it's to mention is we need consistency and patience, because right now we have immediate gratification, that you get the results immediately. But what we need to realize is growth and also learning, it takes time. And also your mind needs to catch up on all of these new topics that we want to learn. So when we also go to coaching, it's important to realize that the journey, it's not about fixing ourselves, but it's about learning who we are. And that takes time. And also the mind needs to catch up on all of this new information we find out about ourselves, and to change the habits and change how we show up for ourselves. It takes time, and it's actually very demanding because we are paving a new way. So this is what I'm also trying to let everybody know, that it takes time and it takes a lot of courage, but that's why the coach is there. It's not only to show you how you can get there, but to basically hold your hand, and to also, what is important to realize is that the coach is there to hold your hand for a while, but they're also teaching you how to do it on your own one day. And that's really important to realize, like, I'm there for a season of your life. And then once you are ready to let me go, it's really just, you need to look at yourself, your own life, and how can you learn to regulate your nervous system, how to be there for yourself, how to keep your own promises. And then really, once you have that foundation, then you can conquer the world, basically, your own world.
Yeah, very true. I think of the aspect of what you said, because I really want to interject here, of the idea of how someone can grow, but it takes time. And I remember when I was in high school, and you have all these tests and everything, and I didn't do too well in certain subjects, but what I did do well in the subjects that I enjoyed was I studied the night before. And sometimes people will study the morning of the test and they'll get an okay grade, but I would always get the best score if I studied the night before and I had some time to rest and to relax. It wasn't so much a rush. But we live in a world today where everything is rushed. And as you said, people, they want everything instantly. They want their packages now after they order them. They want their food immediately after they ordered it. Like, they don't want to get into the process of cooking or shopping. They don't want to do the hard stuff. And when it comes to personal development, sometimes it could take time. Where even writing your book, for example, it took time to write your book. It wasn't just, all right, today is the day I write my book, and then the book is magically completed. It took time. It took edits. It took deliberation. It took understanding, speaking with editors and coaches. And you could say, okay, now I have the book that's really going to be pronounced in people's lives. And I wanted to ask, what was the reason why you wanted to write a book? Because writing a book is a huge endeavor. Most people, they have dreams of just having a little bit more money or a bigger house. Why have a dream of writing a book?
I have to first say how the book came to life, because this book, they are 5 letters, and they were created when I was down, when I was at my rock bottoms emotionally. And I was basically writing it in a huge amount of pain. And I needed to do something with the pain. So I found this outlet, and suddenly the pain existed outside of me. So I felt like a bit of burden was carried by these pages. So that's how I created the first letter. And then I even forgot that I wrote anything until I hit another rock bottom. And it was basically all emotional. It was very difficult for me to figure out who I am, because I was starting to understand that I was not living authentically based on how I want. I had all these different masks, and I had all these facades, and I just didn't even know who I am myself. And that was quite scary, because I was just uncovering all of these lies that I was living in. I was blaming other people. And this is another thing I realized thanks to writing these letters, that I need to take the responsibility of my life. And that's how in the end, it was 5 letters that were created within 1.5 years. So now I would say what was the switch was that I decided to share it, because before I was even embarrassed about these letters, and the embarrassment came because I know how privileged I am. I have amazing family, I have amazing friends, I have amazing job, I have all of these different things that were on paper. I was supposed to be happy. And then suddenly I was feeling like I'm losing all of the meaning of life. Like I was not happy, but I should have been. So I was just writing about all of these emotions. So it was a huge emotional outlet for me. And then the embarrassment came from the understanding that I have this privilege and I still feel very lonely inside. But then as I was healing, I transformed it. And in the end, I became super proud because thanks to also writing this, I overcame these challenges. And thanks to me putting out these letters, I can see the depth of a conversation I can have with people. Because when I speak about these topics, when I allow other people to read it, it creates a permission for them to also speak about their burdens or their struggles. And I can tell you that everybody comes to me that they are struggling with something. It is from different areas of life, but we are all going through it. But there is not too much of a discussion, or we are always feeling like it should be something hidden. And this book, me deciding to publish, created a space, a conversation, and sometimes even inspiration where people are like, finally, I can have somebody to talk about this. So, or even it opens the topics for them that they are maybe looking from afar, but they are coming closer to talking about these struggles. So, this one I didn't decide to write. It basically wrote itself on my journey, and I just decided to publish. But now I'm deciding to start writing another set of books. So let's see how that goes. But for now, I'm very proud of this one, and I just enjoy the conversations I have thanks to the book.
Yes, a powerful catalyst because emotions can lead the way to so many understandings about yourself and the world. I think of when people, they hit rock bottom, right? People will say, oh, boo-hoo me, I'm at rock bottom. And then you have the other mindset of rock bottom is the perfect place to build. And we have to ask ourselves, just because we hit rock bottom once, it doesn't mean we'll never hit it again. It's one of those things that life can just throw you a curveball, and it could be a death of a loved one, grief. It could be job loss. It could just be, like an unrecognizable purpose at some point, because what you thought was for you at one point might have changed, and it could have just shifted just minutely. I think of when you're on a plane, for example, and you're traveling, maybe you're traveling very far from New York to Europe or something, and it's over 1,000 miles or thousands of miles that you have to traverse to get to, one airport to the next. And what happens during the course of your flight is that the plane is gradually making adjustments because of the wind, because of just anything that could be happening around it. But what you would think is you press a button, the plane goes on autopilot, and it goes to your destination. But what would happen if there was a shift by just 1 degree? You would end up in a totally different location than your destination, the one that you wanted to go, that you paid to get to. And what happens in life sometimes is that people, they have a shift by just 1 degree. And that 1 degree can be the struggles and the challenges that can lead to rock bottom. And they think it's so hard. Oh, boo-hoo, my life is so challenging. But if you just change that 1 degree back to where you have to go, consistently, you will always get to your destination. What happens with people is that they procrastinate. They put off, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow. And before they know it, they have a bigger problem. Where when I was in college, I did something very similar to you, where I would write all of my problems, all my emotions down on a piece of paper. And this is what it's like, journaling. But I had a rule for myself, never to read it again. It's just like the paper has the problems. I don't want to deal with the problems, but I can't tell you how many people probably have dealt with the same issues that you have. And it's refreshing for people to realize, like, hey, I'm not alone in this fight, for myself or for the world or for a better tomorrow. And it's extremely human where we can be vulnerable to an extent to say, hey, I've overcome it. You can also overcome it. And I know we live in this perfect world where we look at social media, for example, and everything is perfect. All these beautiful women and men and all these beautiful houses and relationships, they look so pristine. But if you really peeled back at everything, Do you think people are living a false life today, or they are trying to find the true life that they can be living in?
I'd say that that is how the society is kind of building it up, all up for us. And it's our job to take the narrative back to ourselves. So it's not only that, I think it's also quite difficult to start living the authentic life, because what you're saying, we are procrastinating, and I think it's very human, and also it takes a lot of energy, time, and effort to create that new personality. And I think it is really important to realize that we should not even blame ourselves in case we procrastinate, because in order to make that shift, you have to step into the complete unknown, and just there has to be a lot of faith and trust that I'm gonna get to the other side, and I don't know how, and the road can be scary, and I will have to who are gonna help me get there, but I have to really trust that I can handle this. So in order to get to the other side, it is a tough road. And that's why I really believe having those people that can hold your hand and understand what you went through is very important. And that's what I would like to also do with my coaching. But we put so much blame on individual, like a person is procrastinating, you're lazy, you don't want to work on yourself. But the reality is that if you want to change, you have to change your environment as well, because there are certain roles that there are roles that you have automatically labeled on yourself. So let's say that you are living in a family structure, and in that family you have a certain role. You have a certain role in your peer group, at your workplace. And then once you start changing yourself, then you have to also relearn or reteach your surroundings how to treat you, because you are becoming the new person. So I would say that for me, it was easier to do these changes because I moved to a new city. And then when nobody knows you, you can a little bit play with who you are, and you can find out, do I like this personality, or would this suit me a little bit better? But once I started to come back to my peer groups who knew me from childhood, or when I went back to my family, they didn't know the new personality of me. So I had to teach them how to treat me differently. So I had to also not only heal myself, I had to heal my environment. I had to show them who I am. So if you are changing yourself in a place where you are your whole life, let's say, if you are doing it in a group which knows you and they have a certain label and they have a certain role assigned to you, then it's going to be very difficult. So that's why I believe this procrastination can come, because you not only change yourself, but let's say you change certain aspects of yourself, and then you have backlashing. People start telling you, we don't even know who you are right now. So it can be quite tricky to do that. That's why I think it is societal as well. There are these expectations. So in order to start peeling off all of this, that's why I say we need to go slowly and consistently, so that we can, when we do a new step, we can adjust. Our society and our environment, they can adjust. And we then take it slowly to the next level. And I have found out that that's how it works the best. And also that's how the people around you can change with you. Because when the changes are drastic, and let's say you come from 0 to 100, then it can be quite difficult for yourself, because your body and your mind, they need to catch up on these new changes, but then also your surroundings need to catch up. So it's too many changes at the same time, and that's how you can come to this space of you don't know who you are. But if you go slowly and consistently, that's how we can basically make it easier for ourselves. We also, what I would say, the reason why it can be difficult is we make these big visions of things we no longer want to do. So let's say at the beginning of the new year, everybody have New Year's resolution, and now I'm going to lose 10 kilos, for example, or 10 pounds. I don't know what is the conversion there. And it can be a big goal. Also, we always set this huge goal for ourselves, but we can start small. We can start, like, instead of saying I need to lose all of this weight, I can just start to eat apples or fruit instead of sweets. And that's more attainable goal. And that's smaller, much smaller, but it can have a huge meaning in your life. And that's the thing that I'm trying to tell in coaching, that we can set the big vision, but we need to tell ourselves what are the steps to get there. And when we have the road ahead, we have the clarity and we can see, okay, I can go to this goal, but it's going to take me a year. I already have clarity of timeline and I can work towards it. But if we don't have that clarity, it can feel overwhelming. So we never even start. And that's why we procrastinate, because it's too much. It's too big. And that's why I think that this procrastination comes. And that's why having the coach who can guide you in small and digestible ways and steps, I think that's the recipe for success.
Yes. I think of things I do. I like to fast. So I'll fast from Saturday, 6 p.m. to Monday, 12 p.m.
Mhm.
And it's only a day and, 3/4. And my wife, I remember when I first started doing it, she was like, "Oh, I'm going to do it too." She lasted 16 hours, which is funny because it's like, you don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm doing this because I want to do it. It makes me better. It keeps me clearer. And I remember her talking to her friends about it when they went out for like a little dinner date. And all the friends were like, "Oh, I could never do that. That's crazy." And then my wife even went on to say, "Oh yeah, like if he makes up his mind, that's what he's going to do." And I remember one time, this is probably like the third week into me doing it, I was like, you know what would be nice today? A hamburger. It would be nice to have some food on the time, in the window I'm not supposed to be eating. But then I said to myself, it's only the third week. It's like, why am I over here throwing in the towel? What, like what is going on in my mind? And it was just because I was looking for the easy. I was looking for the comfortable. And sometimes when you give yourself a goal or an aspiration to do something, it's not always going to be simple. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be straightforward. Sometimes A to B is not going to be the quickest way for you. Sometimes you have to go with A and then you have to go this way. And then before you know it, you went around in a couple of circles, but then you finally got to your destination. And I think sometimes people will look at someone else's progress and say, wow, they're 36 or they're 40 and look at them. And I'm over here and look at me. Like I am now in this mindset of comparing where they would like to do something, but they have a hard time looking at their life and the progress that they have to make while they're looking at someone else. What's your advice for someone who's looking at someone else, looking at what they have, whether it be the accolades like the homes, the cars, the jobs, the relationships, versus maybe what someone else has might feel like lesser or lower? Like what can we say to those individuals who have this aspect of someone else rather than themselves?
I would say that usually there's emotion behind why we would like to have those things. So to first look at what is the reason, what is the real root cause and root reason why I would like to attain those items. But what I would also like to say is exactly, we don't like to compare ourselves, but usually when I see somebody having things or having something that I would like to have, I usually look at myself back so I can see the other people as inspiration for myself and look at it in a way that, okay, there is something, some emotion or some feeling that I can have around this person, and they can serve me in a way that they can inspire me to become somebody better thanks to having them in my life. So I also would like to say that comparing can only be good in case we see it as inspiration. So that's how I would like to reframe this for myself, also for my clients. And there was one thing that I wanted to tell you about, is because the story that you mentioned is really beautiful, how we like to compare, and that's what also social media does for you, and that's what all these commercials and movies, they're constantly trying to compare. But if you know who you are, if you know who you like to be, then there's no comparison needed. But that's why there needs to be the clarity of who we are becoming, so that we can get inspired from other people around us. And the inspiration can be from this person is already at this place. Maybe if I do something similar, I can get to the same place or something even better that would be more true to who I am. And then we can explore. If there is a certain way how the person got there, maybe we can just look, is it something that would be true for me as well? And then we can navigate our life towards that. But I would say it's always important to come back to ourselves and start the steps. And that's the biggest thing. We need to start. And once we start and we are on the journey, then we can see what is true for us, what is not. And then we can navigate the road. But what I always also tell in coaching is that we need to reward ourselves for making those steps. And it doesn't have to be anything material. It can just be me patting on my back like, wow, you did it. You set this goal for yourself that today you're going to do something that is scary. And then I can just tell myself, thank you for doing that for yourself. Thank you for choosing yourself. Thank you for committing to yourself. And that is enough. But just taking the time to thank yourself and give that credit to yourself, that's how you start to change the mindset. And I think it really begins with yourself, to keep your own promises. If you tell yourself you're going to get on the mat, then you need to reward yourself afterwards as well. But you need to get there. It doesn't matter. Once again, it doesn't have to be any big goal. If you, let's say you want to start with yoga and you have never done it before, it's enough if you just on the first day get on the mat, because that's the toughest part, to just get yourself moving. And giving yourself for that is going to create that certainty within yourself, like, I kept my own promise, and then I know I'm going to do it again next time because I keep my own promises. So it builds trust, and then that's how the self-confidence and self-worth is built as well.
I'm loving our conversation. I'm loving your mindset as well, because when we look at mindset, it's not so much of my mindset is the best mindset and this person's mindset is the wrong mindset. We can think of it in what Carol Dweck says, a growth and fix. But I think mindset is just highly flexible, where someone can say something and it could be in a different wavelength than if I said the same thing, where it's like you talk about the comparison aspect of inspiration, where you look at someone's life as inspiration rather than, oh, boo-hoo me, I don't have what they have. But rather than we rephrase our mindset, our thinking to be, what they have is attainable. I can see it's possible because they have it. Why can't I? And I think of people who have done things that have been impossible, quote, impossible. Where it's like, oh, we can never go to the moon. Oh, we'll never have cell phones, or we'll never have internet. And people were living just in this little box. And life can't just be lived in a box, because it's just so many things that we can learn outside of the box, and from people also, because we might have our own set of skills from us growing up, from our environment, our surroundings. But then when we give ourselves a bit of knowledge or wisdom from someone else, we can really learn. So with all that being said, it leads to the question of how different generations can think. Do you think different than maybe the generations to come or the generations of the past? How would we build a mindset for a generation or a group of individuals where they can have this strong mindset like you have?
What I would like to say to this one is that we usually say this phrase, become the best version of who you can possibly be. And I would like to challenge this one, because we then put focus on trying to become something that is outside of ourselves, that is maybe unattainable, but there is something inside of myself that is better than the rest. And how I am reframing it in coaching is, let's try to love even the worst parts of ourselves. So in that way, there is not competition within myself, because we just spoke about competing against other people. And there is just so much competition that is happening within ourselves as well. And that's what is also being said in the society, right? You are competing against the past version of you. But I would like to make it a bit softer, because we can honor our past. And that is very important to realize. And what I saw on my own journey, that because now I am wiser, thanks to my challenges, thanks to the lessons that I have learned, I can look at my past and say, I see all the mistakes that you have done, and I would not do them. But the truth is that I need to honor my past, because I would not be where I am without her. And I would not be here if she didn't make those mistakes and if she didn't fail. So how can we make it softer? And is this true for me as well? Right now I'm making mistakes and I'm failing at stuff because I need to learn those lessons so my future me can live in abundance, and she can live a life that is even more true to her. Because the thing is that also the healing journey, it's never about fixing. It shouldn't even be about competing. It should always just be about us trying to get to know the reality of who we are. And the thing is that it can keep changing, and it probably will keep changing, and it's okay. And we should just create that space for ourselves. So I'm not sure whether this is generational, whether the new generation is going to have a different mindset than me. I just think that it's about what we allow to ourselves, and how can we shape the society so it can be softer and kinder, and not in a way that it's weaker, because it's not. It's just about how can I look at myself and look at myself in a very compassionate way, so that when I do change, when I do fail, when I do all of these different things that are currently in society taken as bad, how can I reframe it for myself and just shift the mindset? So that's how I really look at it also in coaching, how I'm guiding others. We look at their challenges and just trying to see the bliss inside of them. And I love my challenges, and I love my mistakes, and I also love my failures, because that's where I can grow, and that's where I can really get to know who I am, because I can see in those challenging times if I'm going to stand up for myself, if I'm going to become even more of myself, or if I'm going to hide again. And those are the decisive moments, because when we are living in comfort, that's not where we change. So the question is, how much discomfort do we want to have? Because if we have too much discomfort, then of course it can be overwhelming. But if we have too little discomfort, then we never grow, and we never find out who we are and who we can become. So what I would like to say is, how can we change? And it's a question, it's an open question. And I would not like to maybe compare the generations as well. But the question is, how can we make the world, even social media space, how can we make it more compassionate? How can we make it more natural and more authentic? So I would say the biggest thing we should strive for is authenticity, because then if we really allow other people to see who we are, we give the permission for them to also show up as they are, and we can just start changing the world to a bit more natural place, a bit more authentic and real place, instead of this false mask that we still keep wearing. But I would like to say that I think the society is changing, but needs the individuals to become true to who they are. So it starts with us. And this is the thing I would like to also say, that I could see that at the beginning, I tried to change the world. I tried to change my parents. I tried to change my peer groups. I tried to change everybody. But then I changed myself. And that's how I could see that thanks to me changing myself, the society, the environment, the people, they did change. Because when you heal yourself, you heal your environment. You come with kindness. If you give yourself the kindness, you then bring the kindness to other people as well. And then they can get inspired, and maybe they can learn that maybe instead of reacting, we can start to reflect and respond. And that's what I can see already in my life, that the type of relationships, and with the same people, they changed because I allowed that change to happen. And like I said before, we have these roles, we have these labels, and if somebody questions them, maybe we should let them. And also, we also live in bubbles, right? I can see that recently I started to change who I surround myself with. So before it was peer groups from university, but then in the real world, in let's say even coaching world, I have people who are of all cultures, all different ages, and it's the best thing to just expose yourself to very different perspectives, because then when people question your beliefs, you actually get to see whether it is really my belief or it is something that I inherited from my culture, from my peer group, from my parents, from my really society. And if I don't agree with what I think, I need to be brave enough to change the thinking and find out the answer for myself. So to really create and craft a more compassionate place where we give ourselves the space to also be wrong and have it be okay, and take the narrative back to ourselves, take that power and create a life that is really worth living.
I think of when I was at maybe my lowest in life. It was like one of my rock bottoms. I read a lot of books and I found an author. Her name was Daphne Rose. And she spoke very similar to how you speak, very kind, very sweet, very loving. And I can't tell you how many times I recommended that book to people, like when they were going through hardships, is because sometimes we need this reminder. Sometimes we need to be reminded of the things we might know, but we just forget. And the aspect of healing or figuring out who we are, what we can do. I mean, it seems so simple. And, when everything's going well, but when everything has fallen apart and the world's on fire or our world is on fire, it's hard to really pay attention to things. And I know this episode or even your book is going to change so many lives. And that's the mission, to change one life at a time, maybe a group at a time. And I think of what you said also about how you changed and the people around you changed. And sometimes the change might not be that they changed to be in conjunction with you, but they left. They say, okay, well, this is not going to work. People will gradually let themselves out of your life if they realize that there's no place for them. And it's not that you don't want to create space for them, it's that they don't want to be in that space for themselves. And it's not you being mean or you being unloving, it's that you understand that for you to love yourself truly, or to you to be in the best care for yourself, you have to be the person that emanates something. And typically you radiate the goodness, you radiate the love, you radiate the compassion, and all of that is going to attract people to say, wow, this person is this person is that. And then they reach out and they say, I need help today, right? I need coaching today. I need someone to listen today. And all of those things that, as you said, are just holding the space for someone to truly open up to let them know that or understand that they're not alone in this fight. And I'm here to say that you're not alone in this fight either, where you can find someone who can help you in all aspects of your life, from purpose or just understanding yourself better, or maybe overcoming a challenge or a hurdle in your life. And our conversation today is definitely like a testament to that. And so as we begin to wrap up, I would love for you to please tell us some final words, or to give us some final words or some final thoughts that you would love to leave the audience with. And then to let people know where they can find you, reach out, and then, of course, order your book.
Okay. So I would like to start by saying that if we give ourselves the space to really figure out who we are, everything becomes effortless, because suddenly you have the right people in your life and there is no struggle, there is no challenge, because you no longer entertain drama in your life. You no longer entertain people who don't want to be there, and people are there because they like who you are, not despite of who you are. So this is what I would like to say. I crafted a life which is very easy and effortless because I found out the core of who I am and I started to live from that place very authentically, very real. And that's what I no longer have these masks. So I show up as who I am. And it's so much easier. And then it really shows who is meant to stay in your life. And it's okay to let people go, because some people are meant to be there for a season to teach you the lesson that you needed to learn. And then you can move on and become even more of who you are. And allow yourself to change and allow yourself to mold into different version of who you are, but always keep living from that space of honesty, living from heart. And that's my mission, to give other permission by sharing my story to be authentic, to live in abundance and have it be enough, just who you are. And whether it is in my books, where I created a very vulnerable book, and I'm now publishing it partly for myself, because I wanted to get rid of fear of rejection, fear of visibility, fear of exposure. And this book helped me to craft that inner knowing that that is the right step for me, and it's safe to be heard and it's safe to be seen. And partially because I wanted other people to see that struggle is normal, and I would love to create a conversation where we would not be ashamed of our feelings, we would not be ashamed of our struggles, of our failures. And that is either in the book, and that is how I hold the space for people, a space which is safe, where they can find out who they are in a very non-judgmental way, and to bring them back home to who they are. And I created a community on Instagram under my name, so it's velická.karin. And then I have also a website, velickakarin.com, where I also have more information about my book, about also my coaching. So this would be the two main streams where you can reach me.
All right, perfect. And I'm going to make it easy for everyone. All the links are right down below. So look at her Instagram, her website, and then also check out the book. Like I said, it's going to probably be very similar or reminiscent to one of the books that changed my life. So if you are going through a hardship, a challenge, a struggle, you might ask, well, how can someone else's struggles help me? And it's going to help you realize that you're human. And that is the aspect of growth. That is the aspect of you realizing what you would like to be and what you can be in your life. Sometimes it's going to be a process. Sometimes it's going to take a series of steps in order for you to become the person that you want. It might not be the snap of your fingers and you are this magical person and you have all of your dreams accomplished. Sometimes it could be a journey. Healing can be more than a day. Think of if you get a cut. It doesn't just heal automatically like your Wolverine. It takes some time. And maybe after the cut is fully healed, you have a scar. And that scar can be beautiful as well, because it shows you that you can recover, that you can heal from anything, from any challenge, from any trouble that you have. So rephrase how you're thinking, adjust your mindset, look to figure out where you can improve upon, whether it be a big change or a small change today. And give yourself an aspect of, if you need help, ask for help. Karin is going to be a wonderful person in your life, an asset that is going to help you overcome the challenges or the struggles, the hurt and traumas that you might be living within. It's important that you find someone who can, as you said, the best, hold the space, and to truly see who you are and to who you want to become. So I do want to thank you so much, Karin, for coming on, spending some time, and of course, talking about your work in your book today.
Thank you very much for you holding the space for me to talk about my book, my coaching. It was an honor, and it was very, very pleasant conversation. Thank you very much.